Everybody in here, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me over in Google. All right, cool. And so I have a bunch of screens going on. So Facebook Live, what's going on, everybody out there? Thanks for joining us. YouTube Live. I'm just so excited to be here. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Creating Calm and Confidence During Testing Season webinar. It's a bit of a mouthful, but my name's Jeff Becker. So I'm the founder of In Control and Can Do You. I'm going to be your host for the day. And I know I see a lot of our school partners that showed up to hang out here. So we're always happy to see you guys. What's going on, Can Do Youers and In Controllers? But for those of you that haven't met me before, here's a little bit about me. I'm a former middle school and high school counselor, which is why I jumped right in at 1 o'clock, and we're going to start right on time. And we're going to keep this webinar to 30 minutes or less because ain't nobody got time for a whole hour webinar. I know I didn't when I was a counselor. I know that you probably don't. Maybe, you have emails piling up. You got kids busting in. Some of you have kids in your office as we speak. And so we, just as counselors, we had lots of stuff going on. And so what we're going to do here today is we're going to be talking about the big thing that's probably on your list, which is testing stuff. Some of you guys are proctors. Some of us are full-blown test administrators or test coordinators, or maybe you're like I was and you're just kind of hiding in your office, hoping that that people are going to forget about you altogether, and that you're actually going to kind of fly under the radar and not have to do anything for testing season. Well, spoiler alert, probably not. They're probably going to put you to work. But before we talk about where we're heading today, why don't you guys go ahead and make some friends in the chat box? So whatever streaming platform you're on right now, whether that's YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Google Meet, find that chat button, and wherever you are, take a second, and I want you to type in that chat box where you're joining us from and what your position is, whether you're a school counselor, you're an administrator, you're a teacher of SEL, district personnel, homeschool parent, after school time provider. We would love to hear who you are, what you do, where you're coming to us from. You might actually even bump into somebody on one of these platforms that you know from your counseling life, or maybe you're in a Facebook group with them. Make sure you say what's up and get acquainted with one another. Fantastic. Fantastic. So I see people from Michigan, people from Texas. We have 2 people from Hawaii. Welcome. We have some of our friends from Iowa. We have some people from California. Welcome, 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 everybody. Very cool. Fantastic. So it's so fun to connect with each other. So today's presentation, you might be wondering what we're doing and where we're going, and that's fair. So I'm going to make 3 points in this webinar today, or 3 truths. I'm going to unpack 3 things that are going to help you to kind of think about how to go into and be successful in creating calm and confidence this testing season. And within those points, I'm going to show you the research. Yeah, I said research. The research that informs that point. No, we're not just making stuff up that sounds good. And my wife and I, we were just talking about, my wife's an educator too. We're just going to give you the thing to do. We were talking about at dinner the other night. There is nothing worse than a webinar that's just like straight theory the whole time. And so we're going to tell you exactly what you can do, like exactly the steps you can take to create calm and confidence this testing season. And we're actually going to give you some stuff. A lot of times in webinars, there are people that make a sales offer at the end. I'm not doing that. I think about my life's purpose, just as you think about your life's purpose, is to help students. Mine is to help counselors, educators, principals, district personnel. So I'm just going to give you the stuff. And this is no surprise. I'm hoping that you just love it so much. I'm hoping that your students love it so much. I'm hoping that you find it so useful and that it saves you so much time, so much energy, and it's so amazing that you ask us how you can get more of it. There's no secret there. So there is no sales pitch. We're just going to give you some stuff that's going to help you this testing season. Does that sound good? Awesome. So what we're going to do is let's talk about what the data says. So in 2018, the University of Pittsburgh did a research study on kids who were taking their SATs. So they were 16 to 18 years old, and the researchers, they followed these kids and they measured their habits, they measured their stress levels, and finally they measured their success. And what did they find? They found a 15% all the way up to a 35% in some students, a spike in cortisol, which, if you didn't know, cortisol is like that. It's a stress hormone that jumps into action when our bodies perceive danger. That's kind of the way we were created, to be able to fight off threats. Back in the cavemen days, it was big, scary threats with big, scary teeth. And today, it's, I guess, evidently, things like the SATs. Again, it's a stress hormone. And so what they were finding is that there were just abnormal spikes leading up to these test taking scenarios. And so the problem with too much cortisol is that it can have negative health implications. I mean, just like too much of anything is not good. It can make you feel tired. It can make you feel worn down. Essentially, it makes it hard for us to stay happy and healthy. And then what they found out, that just like with any of us, when we're run down from these spikes in cortisol and when we're stressed out, we don't perform well. In this case, it was an 80% decrease on the SATs. So then the next one is in 2021, the University of Kansas, they followed a bunch of their students to see what test stress did to them. So across the board, they found stress eating. I'm guilty of that. They found substance use, disrupted sleep patterns. Again, that leads to a place of unhappiness and low performance. And so here's the thing. We're talking about kids, but it's not fun for us either as educators, is it? It's not fun for you. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for principals, because you're freaking out about what the district might say about your school site's testing performance, or tests that get invalidated, or the Pearson software that goes sideways. It's not fun for you as a counselor, because you know that, you kind of feel the heartbeat of the school, and you can tell that students are stressed out. And it sure as heck isn't fun for students, is it? No matter how hard we try to mask the fact that everything's okay, students kind of have that radar where they can kind of pick up on the fact that everything's not okay and that everybody's stressed. And those vibes that we put off kind of stress them out. And so before we get going, I just wanted to say, isn't it fascinating that we live in this technology age where we can instantly access the sum of all human knowledge on these tiny little devices that are in our pockets, but we still make kids prove they're worthy by filling in bubbles on a sheet of paper. And we, as the staff, we halfway kind of burn out while we're doing it. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox about that, because I could talk about that all day. What we're going to do is we're going to pivot to acknowledging these challenges and talk about what we can do to embrace some empowering strategies that transform this stress into a catalyst for growth. We're going to show how to build some resilience. We're going to talk about some mindset stuff, because at the end of the day, the kids deserve it. And I think we deserve it as well, as the educators that are working so hard to do this. So get ready, because here we go. Here is tip number one. And tip number one is inspire with vision, not with fear. And so this young gentleman on the slide, that's Dr. Oliver Page. Fantastic guy. He's a guy, he does studies. He studies what great leaders do. And he's just a really smart guy. And I think, if all of us, he's one of those people, like if we all just kind of did what he said, or read his books, or read his research, I think we'd be better off in education. And here's one of the things that he said. I'm going to go ahead and put up a quote up on the slide. But by embodying and conveying positive outcomes, and I'm going to unpack what this means if you don't just get it. By embodying and conveying positive outcomes, showing optimism, transformational leaders get people to perform. So in other words, what about is he's saying, talk about the happy future instead of the one where we're flipping burgers because you didn't pass the test. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I I was threatened as a teenager. If you don't pass this test, you're going to be flipping burgers, or maybe you've accidentally threatened students yourselves. I've done that. We're in a pressure cooker, right? Or you've heard other teachers that are saying things like, you're going to have to repeat the 7th grade if you don't pass this, or if we're talking about adult stuff. I mean, maybe you've been threatened. Maybe the negative stuff has kind of been thrown out of these test administration meetings, and they talk about what it would look like for an organization that fails, or like, don't let that be you that's sitting at your desk typing emails when somebody from the state comes around, or, we want to talk about what it would look like instead. This is what Dr. Page was saying, is that talk about what it would look like to be an organization who nailed state testing with only minor hiccups. Let's not lead with threats about what happens if it doesn't. And so I'm sure that you guys have been in meetings like this before. I've been in meetings leading up to testing season. And this was multiple schools that I worked at. There would be an administrator, and I'm sure if you've worked in enough schools, this has happened to you, but they say things like, hey, listen, and we got to get this right because my butt's on the line here. Well, doesn't that kind of feel like the lowest way to lead? So here's this first interactive moment. What I want everyone to do is I want everyone to get ready to type something into the chat box. Okay, here's the prompt for you. Who are these leaders in the school who have the ability to either speak positively and to use vision, to use a positive vision? Who are the leaders in your building who have that opportunity to either speak about positivity or have that opportunity to threaten? Who are those leaders in your building? You don't have to give names. You can just, I want to see you type in some titles and stuff like that. Are they your assistant principals? Are they your instructional coaches? Are they the test administrators? Fantastic. Good. Yes. And so I see some of our friends from Hawaii. They said that they are the test coordinators that come from the district. Gail, I see you from Texas. It's your principal. It's your APs. It's the counselors. Absolutely. School counselors, deans of students, principals. The big thing that I really want to drive home for you in this scenario is that it's actually you are the leaders. So here's the thing. Anybody who is in charge of influencing somebody else, whether you're a teacher, you are the leader of those students. And I know you might not have signed up to be a leader, but you are. Or maybe you're an assistant principal. You're a leader of your counselors. You're a leader of the students. You're a leader of the families. You're in one of these positions. If you're a test administrator, a test coordinator, please, 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 by all means, we want you to share anecdotes. We want you to lead with vision, lead with a positive, optimistic, compelling vision. Share anecdotes about what success looks like. Paint them a picture. Maybe some of these people don't know. Maybe some of the adults don't know. Maybe some of the students don't know. Paint them a very clear picture about what success looks like in action. Tell your people what you plan to do with the data. Sometimes data freaks people out and they think that, you know what, they're just going to use this to hire and fire people. Paint them a picture and say, hey, you know what I'm going to do with this data? We're going to look at it and we're going to find ways to get better. We're going to find who needs more support. We're going to find students and we're going to get them and we're going to care for them and nurture them all the way until they are the students that we hope they're going to be. Create an environment where staff feels comfortable asking questions. I remember as a rookie teacher, I felt so afraid to ask questions. Booklets, like these testing booklets, are flying around and these words are being used that I didn't know. And a lot of times that's why people fail, because they're, our students included, they're afraid to ask questions because of the environment that has been set. So create an environment. Tell kids that you're excited about test day and that you're going to celebrate all of their hard work. And then finally, show that you have every ounce of confidence in people around you. Again, the things we don't want to do, don't threaten, like talking about stories. I remember every single year they would tell the same story about Well, you know, one of the neighboring schools, one of their teachers got caught giving a student help and they got fired. Well, that's real compelling. That's a great reason to just do your best because you're scared out of your mind that you're going to lose your job. So I kid, but these things are actually happening. Use the power of optimism, the power of positive vision communication. Don't tell anyone that it impacts you. That again is the lowest form of leadership, by saying something like, listen, my butt's on the line, so you better perform. And don't ever tell anyone that they're responsible for keeping you out of trouble. So whether you're a counselor or a teacher, we don't ever want to say that to a kid. Whether we're an administrator, we don't want to say that to the people whom we're leading. If we're especially a district personnel, that's when our voice is the loudest. And that's when we can really create a culture of fear instead of calm and confidence. So to wrap up number one, before we jump into point number two, just remember this. Where vision leads, hope and action follow. If you want to take somebody to a place they've never been, you want to take a student from non-successful test taker to successful test taker, or if you want to take your staff from being terrible and always botching everything with test administration to really nailing it, lead with vision, and that's when hope and action will absolutely follow. Tip number two, embrace growth mindset over fixed outcomes. And I'm so guilty of this with my own kids at home. I have an 8-year-old named Sophie, and she is brilliant. She's on a 10th grade reading level, and a lot of times she says stuff that I don't even understand because it's just so dang smart. And I just find myself going, you are just so smart. Just all the time. Look how smart you are. When actually there's been just a huge body of research. This is Dr. Duckworth. I know, what a heck of a laugh. Angela Duckworth. And so she's participated in over 480 trials. And what she has learned is all about this idea of growth mindset. For those of you that you're not familiar with growth mindset, it's a buzzword, but if you haven't really looked into what it is, it's teaching and empowering people about the power of their own brain. Our brain. No matter what it is that we're trying to learn, whether we're trying to use a camera like the one that's in front of me, or a microphone, or if we're trying to learn how to play the violin, or if we're learning how to speak another language, our brains were designed to change and grow. Growth mindset. They were designed to change and grow no matter what it is that we're trying to feed it information on. Whether that's piano, how to solve a puzzle, whether you're getting a master's degree in school counseling, your brain is going to struggle. Signals and hormones and chemicals are going to be sent, and then your brain is actually going to change. That's super cool that your brain has your back. And so what we want to do, and that's why we bring up this point, is that research shows that when we teach students hard work is the goal, they are 3 and 4 times more likely to be successful. Again, that's 3 and 4 times more likely to be successful if we praise them based on their hard work and effort. That we teach them, listen, this is going to be hard. We're going to be struggling through this. It's going to be tough. Our heads might hurt a little bit. We might feel really frustrated, but hard work's the goal. That's the goal, to feel like that, to challenge ourselves, to grow, to learn, not to get a level 4 on our FCAT. It's not even called FCAT. That was like, I just dated myself in Florida. That was like 8 years ago. But it's not a level 2 in reading, or a level 3 in math, or a level 4 in this, or it's not, if you don't get a level 2, it's this. The goal should be hard work. The goal should be stretching ourselves. The goal should be staying in there when the fight gets hard. So 3 quick ways. And so again, if you're just joining us, I see people popping in all the time. Our numbers are growing on all the platforms. It's a lot of fun. Hi, by the way. We're going to be giving you some things, not just theory. So 3 ways to promote growth mindset leading up to tests. This is what the best schools do. The best schools, they praise their children's effort and strategies that they're taking instead of their intelligence. Say things like, wow, you worked so hard on that, instead of you're so smart. And so another thing, encourage them to see challenges as opportunities to grow and learn. That's what growth mindset is all about, is that we don't just, we actually we proactively look for opportunities to be challenged rather than think about how obstacles that are too hard and we need to bail on them. If something's too hard, we need to jump out. But again, encourage them to grow and learn rather than see those obstacles as too hard to overcome. And then the third one is teach them about the power of yet. We live in a social media whirlwind where all we and our students see are everybody's best and final take. We see YouTube videos of people just like throwing basketballs up over their head and hitting it. And students think, wow, they're just really good at it and I could never do that. Or we see people on TikTok doing weird stuff like building card castles or doing these really crazy elaborate 65-part dances. And we think, wow, that person's just a good dancer. I could never. And students become discouraged thinking that they're just not naturally gifted or talented in those areas. What we need to teach them is, yeah, you're not good at that right now. You're not good at that yet. And if we fight through the fails and if we get frustrated and if we embrace these problems and we embrace these challenges and we pick ourselves back up and learn from our mistakes, we are going to, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what your parents do for a living, no matter what your IQ is, no matter what your race, ethnicity, gender is, your brain will just learn and grow no matter what you feed it. It just might not be easy, and that is okay. So what we want to do is we want to get tactical and practical. This is what we're going to give you. If you have registered for this webinar and you're here right now, you're going to receive an email. What we did is we built a custom classroom that just isolates. And so for all of our customers that are on this call, you guys already have access to this. But if you're not one of our school partners yet, see, power of yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you, oh, so corny. We're going to send you a link that allows you to get into a classroom that just has the videos that are super useful for testing season. So that's growth mindset videos for middle school and growth mindset for high school. We have some other ones in there, but I'm not going to spoil that yet. So what we would do is we would show one or more of our videos on growth mindset to your students, whether that's middle school or high school. I'm sorry, we don't have elementary school stuff yet. Again, power A yet. It's just we started where we know what we're really doing really well. Two, go into classrooms afterwards and give candy to those to the teachers, or give candy to the students. I'm sorry, I got a typo here. Give candy out to the students who are working the hardest, or who the teachers say work the hardest. That's not a typo. So go into a classroom, ask the teachers, hey, Mrs. Smith, who's your hardest worker in the room? I want to reward them. Who are your 2 or 3 hardest workers in your room? People that really just embrace challenges, people that hang in there and try to figure out problems. Who are they? I want to reward them. That's something really super easy, super fun, super uplifting that you can do. 3, have your principals communicate hard work over best score. There are innumerable opportunities for leaders to just, because principals are very hard to nail down and hard to ask to do things, but just ask them to write something down, type something up that they can easily say over the morning announcements or the afternoon announcements, something that aligns with the message of growth mindset as you're leading up to testing season, something that reiterates, God bless you, Tammy. You're like one of my few people and that are my thumbnails. I just saw her sneeze, or she was dabbing. The kids still do that. But have principals communicate hard work over best scores. Again, hard work over best scores. That's the big idea. And then finally, send one of our mindset parent guides home to the parents so they can get on board with the messaging that is inevitably happening all over your school. So again, all of our curriculum comes with obviously video lessons. That's why everybody knows us, but it also comes with parent guides that you can send home. Parent guides have clickable links where the parents can look at the research behind it, watch YouTube videos, podcasts, read books, stuff like that. Tip number 3. All right, so we're going to round this thing out. We're at 124. Hang in here again, because if you stay all the way to the end, we're going to hook you up with a bunch of cool stuff. So tip number 3, foster resilience to thwart anxiety. A lot of times when we were coming out of COVID season, This was one of my favorite conversations I've had with, it was a school partner that was getting ready to come on board. And we were talking about what professional development that we could provide to their staff that would be meaningful. And they said to me, she was a counselor, and she said, my principal wants us to do like a stress relief for teachers, like a teacher mindfulness thing. She was like, but you know what? I think focusing on mindfulness as much as we've done for the last 2 and 3 years is actually making us feel even worse. It's like if you think about how you're messed up, or if you think about, I have anxiety and here's how you deal with anxiety and here's blah, 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 blah. Well, how about we flip that on its head? And yes, obviously anxiety and anxiety disorders are very serious. And so many of our students are struggling with that still, from 2020 and 2021. But also, research shows that it would pay to focus on resilience and how strong we actually are and how resilient we actually are as human beings, and that we are built for it. We are built for challenges. And yes, they're hard. And yes, they require support. And yes, sometimes we cry. And yes, sometimes we feel nervous. And yes, a lot of times we feel scared. But we're also unbelievably strong. So again, if we're talking about research that supports this, so that you don't think it's just Jeff Becker up on some kind of soapbox, there were 5 cross-sectional studies. It was 8,700 students. They were from the US, Canada, Norway, Africa, and Indonesia. And 8,700 students, somewhere around there. And they found out, basically, in a nutshell, fostering resilience reduces anxiety. So if you want to help fight anxiety, let's talk about how strong we are. And that actually helps students to, on their own. That's kind of like teach a student how to fish and they'll fish forever instead of giving them a fish. Obviously, we're going to need to triage students that are having panic attacks and feeling just terrible, ridden with anxiety. And sometimes students come into our office, it's the first time that they've ever experienced anxiety. And yes, we're going to do that. And also, we're going to teach them how unbelievably strong they are. So, and one really cool example, this is a leader that I've had the pleasure of working with. His name is Dr. Mark Smith. Let me tell you a little bit about how he actually puts this in action. Dr. Mark Smith, he comes from a rural area that is not known for its academic achievement. They just added their first 2 AP courses in their high school. Their middle schools are very low performing, low socioeconomic status schools. And so this isn't like some affluent school that he just walks into with, this huge gifted population or anything like that. But when Mark recognized the low performance, he decided to invest in people socially, building relationships with his teams, and emotionally. And so what he focused on, he brought in speakers to talk about resilience. He brought in speakers to talk about mindset. He bought the staff amazing books. And instead of doing those email-esque staff meetings, he was actually doing team building and character building with his staff. And what he learned is that the happier and the healthier and the more resilient he could build his staff, that then they started to perform. He built just unstoppable teachers, positive teachers, resilient teachers, and that trickles down to the students. And now the students are more resilient. The students have a higher aptitude to sit through their tests. If kids are looking at a test like it's impossible and they're bailing as soon as they look at the questions, how on earth are they ever going to perform? But what if we created this amazing body of students that were just so wildly resilient because everywhere they looked in your school, they were talking about resilience and the power that we have within. And they're sitting in their test and they're trying their best and they're hanging in there. Even when the problems on the state standardized test are near impossible, they're looking at the different combinations of answers and they're eliminating answers that probably won't fit. What would happen if we taught our students to be wildly resilient? There's tons of research that supports the idea that hard work makes up for a lack of IQ. And that's what you can do this testing season. Again, getting tactical and practical. We have a bunch of different videos with a bunch of different students. We have ones for high school. We have ones for freshmen. We have ones for seniors. We have ones for middle schoolers, all about resilience. So what we would say is we'd say show one or more of the videos on resilience to your students. Go into the classrooms afterwards and give candy to the kids. Again, give candy and make it fun to the kids who share stories of overcoming great challenges. You know, something corny, my Apple Watch, it has that resilience or mindful app that reminds me. And just the other day, it said, take a second to think of a challenge that you've overcome in your life. And I finally did. Usually I just, you tap it to get it to shut up so you can go back to doing whatever you were doing. But I actually did it, and it is powerful. Have students share those stories. Have teachers share those stories. It's fantastic. It's feel-good stuff. And there is a very strong correlation between happiness and health and performance. At the end of the day, we're getting evaluated on test scores. Well, let's attack those social and emotional competencies that help people to be resilient, and then they'll get the test scores. Have principals communicate resilience to everybody in the building. And 4, send one of, not the mindset, that is a typo, send one of the resilience parent guides out to all of your parents and caretakers in your community to have them get on board with everything too. So this is what I'm going to leave you with. Here's my optimistic vision for you. I want you to lead with vision, whoever you are. I've heard multiple counselors in the last 3 years say, I'm just a counselor. You are not just a counselor. You are a specialist. You are an influencer. You're a leader, and you have much more power than you maybe think you do. Lead with vision. Talk to people about how things are going to be fantastic. Tell people what they can expect when things do go fantastically. Encourage hard work in your building. You're working with a lot of your L25 students. I know I was. There was always that behavioral overlap. Encourage hard work. Say, hey, you know what? Don't worry about your test score. I want you to focus on working as hard as you can. Create performers, and they'll perform. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about this. So we have all of testing season taken care of you. That's all free. But what I want you to imagine you have a whole catalog of all of these videos and parent guides and leader guides all done for you on everything from growth mindset, goal achievement, goal setting, empathy, resilience, decision-making, communication skills, people skills. I want you to imagine you have a whole catalog where you can teach students this. And not only can you teach them these skills and competencies, but with zero prep for you, the counselor, and for your teachers in your building. If you're a high school person, we have 75 video lessons for grades 9 through 12. If you're one of our paid partners, you get access to all kinds of stuff. All of the videos are now captioned in Spanish and English for our ELL, for our students who are ELL or have a DHH designation. We have a new software that allows you to see who's doing what lessons around your building and to what length and with what fidelity. We have teacher takeover lessons where there are extra supplemental activities for teachers to do. Our catalogs are growing with the best content in the world. And that's not just us. Everybody that comes to us from another company says, thank goodness we found you because XYZ wasn't working. But again, there's crazy stuff, parent guides, leader guides, staff training, staff development. One of our team members or myself personally will come out to your school. A lot of people on this call, I know you because I've been to your school and we've gotten your staff on board. That's my vision for you, is when we get our staff on board and when we have the tools to succeed, we do. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Comments, questions, and concerns, feel free to, you can either leave them in the chat box. If you're interested in coming on board next year, we can even get you in early this year for the same price. That helps us out greatly when we're trying to onboard all of the schools that we do. But you can email Jeannie. She's the brains of the operation. I'm the mouth. And without her, it would just be a mouth. And that's just not good for anything. So email Jeannie and tell her that you're interested in either learning more about the middle school curriculum or the high school curriculum or both, or your district or professional development, whatever it is, however we can help you. If you don't need our help and you're just thriving, I'm happy to hear that too, guys. but you'll be receiving an email with a recording of this, but also we'll give you the coupon code so you can get into the testing season video curriculum for your school, teachers, and students. Guys, from the bottom of my heart, I am so lucky to do this. I appreciate you. You're doing a much better job than you think you are, and you're appreciated more than you think you are. All right, guys, I'm Jeff Becker. You're awesome. I'll talk to you soon.